Hey, it's your man, and welcome back to you. And I've had a lot of people, well, since I've started here on YouTube, even before I started putting up videos, that have asked me about my house rules for D&D 3.5 and just house rules in general, how to make them, you know, how the whole deal works. And for house rules, let me just tell you this first. I'm changing things around on my computer here. Make sure, like my creative writing teacher used to say in college, make sure you learn the rules before you break the rules. The first time you run a game, don't use any house rules, or maybe just some very, very, very slight things, because you can make minor alterations to the rules that completely screw you in other ways you do not realize, because you don't know the way the rules interlock, and they are like Lego blocks, or maybe even better to say like Jenga. And if you pull the wrong thing out there, you know, everything might come tumbling down in a way that you do not expect. So make sure you know what you're doing with the system well before you start monkeying around with things. You can completely destroy a campaign by accidentally making something too powerful, or making something else too weak. You know, you can have encounters kill the whole party, or have them just run through things at a ridiculous rate. And players do not like when you change things in the middle. It's like, well, this worked this way, but now all of a sudden things don't work that way anymore. Like it damaged your credibility and the suspended disbelief you want to have in the game. But I'm going to go through a whole video on my other house rules. But before I do that, I just want to present my D&D 3.5 system for generating characters. I do not use dice rolling. I hate making random, arbitrary decisions based on pure luck. Particularly in Dungeons & Dragons, because it gives you such a vast power curve. If you roll dice in Dungeons & Dragons, you can have a character that, if you take all 6 stats together, might have as many as 20 points higher than the lowest character of the group. That is a massive difference that you will never ever overcome, and that player will overshadow and overshine that weak character continuously. And particularly if your weakest player is if the one with the worst stats happens to be your best role player, that can be over accounted for. If the one with the weakest stats is one of your weaker role players, that's a hole they will never ever get out of. That character is not going to be able to make the same level of contributions. And for the fact that they advocate balance so highly in 3.5, I find the fact that they put dice rolling systems in there to be utterly ludicrous. A character, Hobgoblins are adjudicated a +1 ECL in the monster manual because they have a +4 stat buff, +2 to Dex, +2 to Con, and they have no stat penalties. So they're saying 4 extra stat points is worth a whole level. But characters can run around with a lot more stats difference between them. And, you know, it just creates a lot of problems. I don't like it. And another reason I don't like it is because some people will cheat. And if they're going to cheat, the place they're going to cheat is on their stats. I've seen it over and over again, and I've seen it from people that I've never seen cheat on anything else. I've seen so many people cheat their stats, particularly in the AD&D, where you had that percentile rolls, and you really had to have high stats because you got jacked on low ones. Sorry, my nose is just absolutely killing me here. Out doing all kinds of yard work today. I have bad allergies. Now, that is just really a big problem in your game. So the way that I've handled it is, you know, and I originally devised this because I had a guy that would play with us. Actually, multiple guys. You know, in high school, I'd see multiple guys cheating. I said, you know, I can really easily know exactly what your stats are, and we can have a conversation as to why they aren't correct if we have a point system set down together. And the other thing that I decided I really like is for characters to continue to progress. I don't like this character starting out tremendously strong. One of the things that I don't think I mentioned in my 2nd edition video, I didn't like in AD&D. It's like, here you go, roll your character up. He's 17 years old, and his stats are never getting any better. There's not getting any better. Now, they may magically increase, but just from, you know, getting older, I can guarantee you that I am a lot stronger now than I was when I was 17. You know, by more than 1 point. And even if it's only by 1 point, then, you know, where do I get the extra point from? You know, with that, you know, adventuring age of 17, I'm a lot wiser now, and I haven't hit the age requisite to increase my wisdom by 1. So, you know, that's a real issue to me in terms of having to have this character that's mega baller right at the base. I would rather have him slowly increase. So this is what I do. I'm going to try to go over this slowly. I used to have it a bit more complicated, but it confused people, so I've streamlined it a little bit. Now, let's just look at a human. And racial caps are actually very important for the way that I handle stats. Humans have 18s as the highest possible they can have, starting off by the normal rules for any of their stats. To say you roll on their 3d6, you roll an 18, there's no way you can get it up higher. A dwarf could have a 20 if you rolled at 18, for example, under the typical way that stats are done. However, so if you're playing a human, you'd write down a column, like you write your stats here, and then over another column on the side of the paper, you just write your maximums. Now, certain things can affect your maximums, but say a dwarf, for example, would have 4 18s, a 20 con, and a 16 charisma maximum. So, but at first level, I do not let characters start with a stat higher than 15. You get 74 points. Put them wherever you want. But no stats can go over 15 before racial modifiers. If you played an elf, you could have a 17 dexterity, for example. This prevents really just grotesque levels of min-maxing, power gaming, and it prevents characters from having, you know, I'm a fighter of 18 strength, I'm a wizard of 18 intelligence. It makes your character more balanced out, and then you can grow the character a bit more later. Now, you go 74 points, that's a little low. Man, it is. But every single level after that, you get at least 1 point. One additional point. Now, the point you get at second level, if you say took a point at second level and put it into your strength, making your strength 16, at third level you cannot put that same point into strength. You have to put it into a different point. None of these points, with the exception I'm going to mention later, will increase your cap. So with these points that you're getting, you can only increase your stat up to your cap, say to an 18 for a human. Now, the points that the book would normally have given you, 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, you get an extra point. For whatever stat you put a point in at that level, you get a point also to the cap. Now, also other certain things will increase your cap. There's a feat in Mongoose's The Complete Witch called Dark Bloodlines. I'll let you take it for any bloodline. Basically, it gets you 2 little bennies, or you could even have 2 extra stat points. But it's not to all your stats. It's like strength, dex, con, charisma, or one of the physical stats I think is not represented. But you could get that and get a bite attack or like a poison save or some energy resistance. It's basically kind of like here, make the way the feat is put together. It's basically like you're a tiefling. That's basically what the feat is designed for. But a way subdued down version. But to give you that infernal or abyssal or, you know, whatever bloodline, but I could see that being applied to just about anything. So if you have that, those points will push you above. If you take like a racial paragon class, like Orc Paragon, that +2 bonus that they give you to strength at the end, that also would affect your racial cap. Now at 10th level and at 20th level, I give you a +1 bonus to all of your stats. And at 20th level, you get to also raise a cap for one of your stats, as you should naturally get a point at 20th level. So that is the way that I do points. It's really easy. I can pull it out. I can look at it all over. When you die, any kind of death, regardless of how you get brought back, raised dead, resurrection, direction, all of them, you lose a con point in my game, and that con point is lost off your cap, which is to say, you know, eventually there's only so many times you can be brought back. You know, I kind of brought that over from the AD&D, losing levels and stuff like that I don't like. But that is how hopefully that was clear and concise enough. That's how I handle character generation in D&D 3.5.